Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Ayes, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Last week we celebrated the best video games that I played in 2023. We highlighted some titles that were parts of beloved franchises, while also giving the thumbs up to original experiences. Unfortunately, we must now go to the end of the spectrum and discuss the most disappointing titles of 2023. It would be natural to talk about the worst experiences, but I will be honest with you. The majority of games that I played last year were anywhere between good to amazing. Therefore, I decided to change the list of worst video games to the list of the most disappointing video games. Before we begin, let's go over a couple ground rules. First, the games are ranked based on how much I was disappointed by them. Lastly, it is obviously a subjective list. If you have other titles that were disappointing to you, please let me know in the comment section so we can talk about them. Without further ado, let's discuss my top 10 most disappointing video games of 2023. Number 10, WWE 2K23. From the introduction of the WWE series on the last generation of consoles with WWE 2K14, up until the disaster that was WWE 2K20, wrestling games have been in a downward spiral and in a serious need for rejuvenation. Thankfully, the absence of 2K21 and the return of the franchise with 2K22 was a good sign and a breath of fresh air. The entry from 2 years ago was proof that wrestling games can be good with the right amount of quality, care, and attention to detail. WWE 2K23 continued the upward trend. The amount of content on deck was incredible, the dual narrative My Rise mode was very fun, and the gameplay was as tight as ever. Unfortunately, WWE 2K23 suffers the same issue that I have with most sports games nowadays. Although there is always room for improvement, upcoming games cannot make major jumps ahead without completely changing the core mechanics and taking a leap that the core audience may like or dislike the new changes. The main reason why I placed WWE 2K23 on this list is because it resembles 2K22 a bit too much. Aside from a noticeable lack of commentary during showcase mode, the game is essentially 2K22. It is not a bad thing per se because I really like 2K22. The 2K23 provides little to no major improvements and as a result, disappointed me to a certain extent. Number 9, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Star Wars Jedi Survivor had the potential to be the best Star Wars game of all time. Jedi Fallen Order was a fantastic new representation of the IP in the video game spectrum, with a new protagonist, semi-open environments to explore, and a combat system that, at higher difficulty settings, resembled the punishing gameplay of typical From Software titles like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Outside of the horrendous map, Jedi Fallen Order was great, and I earned a Platinum Trophy on multiple accounts. Technical issues aside, Jedi Survivor improves on every aspect of its predecessor. The narrative is more captivating, the gameplay includes nice modifications, and the level design is more open and more rewarding for exploration. With all of it being said, be mindful that I praised every aspect of Jedi Survivor with the exception of its technical issues, of which there was an alarming amount at launch. I attempted to play the game in performance mode for the first 2 weeks or so of the game's release, and the games would continuously drop frame rates from 60 frames per second to 30 and even lower. In addition, there were many other problems on the technical front, including graphical glitches, game crashes, and audio syncing issues. Granted, the developers have seemed to fix these problems and the game is now at the state that it should have been at launch. But it does not change the fact that my first impressions of Star Wars Jedi Survivor at launch was severely hindered by these technical problems. Number 8, Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is arguably the best Harry Potter title in existence. Even though you do not play as the 3 main protagonists of the literary and cinematic franchise, you create your own character and you go through the process of going to school, exploring a mystical world, and fighting evil sorcerers and gigantic creatures. I am not a massive fan of the franchise, but I had fun and appreciated what the developers aimed to do with Hogwarts Legacy. There are many positive aspects of the game. The attention to detail in particular is absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, Hogwarts Legacy failed, in my opinion, on a couple of major fronts that are incredibly important in any role-playing game. On one hand, the side missions are mostly forgettable. In fact, I cannot name a single side mission that made an impression on me. On the other hand, there is no real endgame content for Hogwarts Legacy. The title is already massive, but role-playing games benefit on an enormous level if there is something new to do after the final main quest that you could not have done before the end credits scrolled on your screen. Hogwarts Legacy may be a dream come true for fans of Harry Potter, but I understand why it may be an unfulfilled dream for some hardcore role-playing gamers. Number 7. Assassin's Creed Mirage. Ever since the release of Assassin's Creed Origins, many gamers have pleaded with Ubisoft to bring the franchise back to its core roots. Whereas Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla transformed into open-world role-playing games, the original Assassin's Creed titles such as Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed 2, and Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag were less focused on providing an insanely large world with numerous collectibles, and more focused on a smaller, solid experience that is highly based on stealth. With the release of Assassin's Creed Mirage, it seemed that Ubisoft have heard and abided by that plead. The emphasis on missions where you are encouraged to not be seen is definitely felt throughout the beautifully designed land of Baghdad, and the story at display is quite interesting. Nevertheless, my biggest complaint about Assassin's Creed Mirage is, ironically, as a result of Ubisoft listening a bit too close to the request of resurrecting old-school Assassin's Creed gameplay. If we look back at the original title, my primary criticism was the combat system, which was, as far as I'm concerned, too easy. Mirage falls to the same trap of making the combat a bit too easy. Even when you are on the highest level of alert, you can easily kill everyone in your path and move on with your day. Assassin's Creed Mirage is a great first step in the right direction, but it was not released without its own share of flaws. Number 6. Forspoken. Despite the placement of this game on my list, I was actually one of its defenders from the moment I played the demo several months ago. The constant exaggeration about the title's dialogue, with one particular segment in mind.
Did I just do that?
Well, definitely with my assistance.
I did not just do that.
We did.
I just moved shit with my mind.
Perhaps our connection has somehow awoken some abilities.
I just moved shit with my mind.
I just keep hearing I.
Drove me up a wall and further cemented my proof that a lot of gamers nowadays tend to criticize certain games about a topic, but defend the same topic in games that they love. The same people who complained about the dialogue in Forspoken are the same dudes who nod their heads and applaud Capcom's decision to include a scene in Resident Evil 5 where Chris, the title's protagonist, punches a boulder. Keep in mind that I'm not smack talking the game. I personally love Resident Evil 5. Anyway, I'm going ahead of myself. Forspoken has some positive aspects. The wonderful array of spells on display, the powerful soundtrack, and a few emotional moments during the plot are certainly worth praising. At the same time, I can only defend this game to a certain extent because, at the end of the day, Forspoken is indeed a disappointment. The side quests favor quantity over quality in the same vein as Hogwarts Legacy, the pairing system is inconsistent, and the dialogue is a hit or miss, even though there are dialogues in other games that are far worse. I personally would not mind seeing a sequel to Forspoken, but I also would not shed a tear if that is the last time we would hear from this new IP. Number 5. Fort Solis. The announcement of Fort Solis was very promising. It stars Roger Clark, mainly known as Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2, and Troy Baker, primarily known as Joel from The Last of Us, Booker DeWitt from Bioshock Infinite, and Joker from Batman Arkham Origins. Both characters are stranded on Mars and try to do whatever is necessary to escape while at the same time exploring or discovering a horrific truth. I was immediately hooked on the concept alone and played it at release. While I found some form of entertainment from the game's wonderful artistic design and intriguing plot, it ultimately ended up being a very slow walking simulator that leaves much to be desired by its end. Furthermore, the frame rate was inconsistent during performance mode, and there were several QuickTime events that either did not work at all or were extremely unforgiving. It also did not help that you are unable to run or sprint during your experience, which makes additional playthroughs a tad unbearable. Fort Solis is worth a playthrough at some point, but not until it either comes to PlayStation Plus or Game Pass, or it is heavily discounted in one of the many upcoming sales. Number 4. Telltale The Expanse. If bias came into play during the making of this video, Telltale The Expanse would easily be on the top of my list. It comes from the company that not only released excellent narrative-based experiences like Batman and The Wolf Among Us, but it also was the source of my favorite video game of all time, The Walking Dead. The Expanse surprisingly creates a tale that will be fully understood by fans of the television show, and can also be easily followed by folks who have never seen the show. It also does a great job of making your choices matter by the end of the game, which I recently discovered through my attempt at earning the Platinum Trophy. My opinion of the game may have changed after my second playthrough of the title, but it does not change the objective fact that The Expanse is easily the shortest Telltale game in existence since The Walking Dead's release in 2012. I kid you not when I say that the longest playthrough of an episode on my first playthrough lasted slightly over an hour, whereas the finale lasted around 30 minutes. It was unbelievably disappointing, and I called out Telltale on X for it. One of their employers responded to my tweet and said that I missed a lot by not completely exploring the environments and earning all the collectibles. After my second playthrough, I can confirm that my playthroughs lasted around the same time. So the excuse by Telltale was just that, an excuse. There are still 3 more games that were more disappointing to me in 2023, but Telltale The Expanse definitely struck a nerve with me and made me nervous about the upcoming release of The Wolf Among Us 2. Number 3, Goodbye Volcano High. Although this is the list of my most disappointing video games of 2023, I would lie if I said that the next 3 picks are not the worst video games I played in 2023. The first aspect that will give you hope about Goodbye Volcano High is its art style. It is interesting and accompanied by an exceptional soundtrack. There is also a cool world event that has a real historical life tie-in, but I can't discuss it here because it will involve heavy spoilers. If my analysis of the game ended here, the idea to place Goodbye Volcano High on this list would not have crossed my mind. Sadly, all of the high praise that I just gave the title were concluded after suffering through the first half of the title, which was either extremely phoned in with high school drama or painfully boring. I clearly remember my time with the title while streaming it, and several viewers jokingly called me a flip-flopper because I was downplaying the quality of Goodbye Volcano High for the first half of the title, while singing its praises during the second half. Goodbye Volcano High is a game with a high amount of replayability, but I would not consider finishing it unless you fully enjoyed the first part of your playthrough. Number 2, Horizon Call of the Mountain. As I placed a virtual reality experience on my list of the best video games of 2023 with Drums Rock, I must now unfortunately place a virtual reality experience on my list of the most disappointing video games of 2023 with Horizon Call of the Mountain. Contrary to many gamers who suddenly became prominent naysayers of the franchise, I have enjoyed my time with Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. The combat system that's filled with human versus robot dinosaurs battles is unique, the presentation is gorgeous as a whole, and the lore is eyebrow-raising, in a good way. As a result, it did not take me too long to convince myself to give Call of the Mountain a shot. I cannot play virtual reality for long sessions due to motion sickness, but I enjoyed the initial hour or so of the experience. There are many ingenious gameplay mechanics for collectible hunting and long-range combat. Sadly, there are 2 mechanics that ultimately force me to subtract several points from the final score: short-range combat and traversal. In the non-VR experiences, you deal the most damage to enemies by targeting weak points. Following the same method in the VR experience is incredibly irritating and unnecessarily prolonged each fight that I had in the game. It may be due to a lack of skill on my department, but I ended up treating the title's combat as a chore as opposed to an opportunity to have fun. The other disappointing mechanic of Call of the Mountain is the traversal. At its core, it makes sense, and it's cool for the first few sections. However, the majority of your time with Horizon's VR game will be spent with traversal. It is tedious and severely impacts the fun factor of the game. There are video games that do not need a virtual reality companion. As far as I'm concerned, Horizon Call of the Mountain was one of those games that did not need to be made, with all the respect to the people who worked on the game. Number 1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. When you purchase a Call of Duty game, there is a 50% chance that it will be great and a 50% chance that it will be disappointing. There are entries in the series like Ghosts, Infinite Warfare, and Black Ops Cold War that many people disliked, but I enjoyed them to a certain extent. If a new Call of Duty game is panned by critics and common gamers alike, it does not mean that I will automatically join the herd. Unfortunately, it is absolutely the case with last year's Modern Warfare 3. Prior to its release, there were news or rumors that Modern Warfare 3 was developed as downloadable content for 2022's Modern Warfare 2. Once I installed the third entry in the remade trilogy and was asked to download a hub that also included Modern Warfare 2, those supposed rumors were closer and closer to being the truth. If the game was great, this particular detail would not matter to me. However, it is not the case. It may have a fun multiplayer experience due to the remastered Modern Warfare 2 maps from 2009, a cool villain in Vladimir Makarov, and beautiful cutscenes, but they do not encourage me to ignore the game's numerous flaws. The excessive ads for battle passes, the worst zombie games that I have ever played, and the clear downgrade in the plot between the remake and the original trilogies do not do the franchise any favors. Furthermore, Modern Warfare 3 may have the worst Call of Duty campaign that I have ever played. Half of the missions are traditional Call of Duty objectives that are a blast to play, while the other half clearly resemble the Warzone Battle Royale mode with open-ended maps and tasks that are very uninteresting. I'm not sure if Modern Warfare 3 is my least favorite Call of Duty game of all time, but it is easily my most disappointing video game of 2023. Well folks, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for checking it out. What are some of your most disappointing video games of 2023? Please let me know in the comment section below. Till next time, have a great day or evening wherever you are. My name is Elias, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.